Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's FBC broadcast. Slight murmurs of rebellion yesterday, and yet seventh in the championship. What a curious case it is to be a Bristol City fan. Today, we're going to go through what was a reasonably comfortable second half win against the bottom side in the championship. I'm the host today, and I'm joined by David Potier and Paul Hunt. And just a word for you all, in the second half of the podcast, around about 9:30, it's an open house. If anybody wants to come on, we have the link on X and we also have the link on OTIB. So by all means, come along. So let's get down to business. Paul, what were your thoughts coming out of Ashton Gate at 5:45?
I was happy. Massive potential banana skin, wasn't it, after everything that's gone on? But we cleared that hurdle. We did what we needed to do, especially in the second half, as you said. A bit worrying at half time that it could have been one of those games. But yeah, it was job done. And two up top, big man, little man, lots of energy and pace. That looked quite good second half.
Pleased with it in the second half, yeah?
Yeah.
Mr. B, what was your feelings coming out?
Pretty much the same as Paul. I mean, it was a potential banana skin. Graham C, I think on OTIB put typical Bristol City. I was that person that said typical Bristol City to lose that one. And I'll show my disloyalty. I even put 20 quid on at 15-2, but I had the joy of City winning, which mitigated the loss of 170 quid. Second half, we did it. First half, it looked two very poor sides, and the pitch seemed unusually heavy as well. And it would have been great if we'd have finished the day sixth, because there's been a lot of bedwetting going on this week by some fans, probably including some of us. But, you know, Wrexham got that 94th minute goal just to nudge us out. But we're there. We're 6 points clear. We're 6 points behind fifth, I think it is. And as I said yesterday, we're in a group of, I think, 8 to 10 clubs that are fighting for the final slot in the playoffs, because the rest of them, with some good results yesterday, Hull and Middlesbrough, Millwall and Middlesbrough and Hull for that matter, they all won. They seem to be pulling away a little bit from sixth slot.
The championship's incredible in that way. You know, we've loaned one of our own players to Hull just to give them a hand if they so need. Preston beat us, looking like full-on playoff contenders, and then lose every single game. We don't pick up many points, and all of a sudden we win a game again, and we're right back in the hunt. One goal takes you up like 4 places. It is a cluster of a league. It doesn't stop, you know, it's relentless. And I saw like a few of the players in interviews, and they all come out and say this is the hardest league in the world. And I don't think it's just a token comment. I think they all find it, because it's a league that doesn't stop. And for most teams, you don't know what version of your own team you're going to get on a week-by-week basis. Now, Paul, 2 questions. First of all, have you ever bet on City to lose, and how did it feel? And second question, what were your thoughts on the lineup and the bench going into yesterday's game?
I've never bet on City to lose or win, to be honest.
Never, no? Wow.
No, it just doesn't feel right. There's just so much motion and excitement in the game and supporting the club. I don't need the added stimulus of having a bet on it all, because it's so unpredictable as well with City, isn't it? It must be the worst thing to bet on. And
exactly.
The lineup, I was quite happy with the lineup. I mean, there wasn't that many players to pick from, was there? It was going to be Borges or Pring. It's left wing back. We knew McCrory was coming back in. So, yeah, it looked quite good. I had to go and look up Adenzu, is it, on who he was on the bench. I suppose I was surprised Meerholtz wasn't on the bench. I don't know what's happened to him, but you knew it's going to be a few youngsters on there to fill it out after everything has gone on.
With the exception of one particularly large elephant in the room named Anis, did you think it was that much of a weaker bench yesterday in terms of our typical options that we have?
No, because he's never going to use Cornick, and you only came on for like 5 minutes, didn't he, here and there? So I suppose we only really had half a bench anyway of people we would actually think might come on and do something in the game. So it wasn't that different, was it? And if we'd probably gone 3 up, he might have brought one of the youngsters on or something like that.
No, I think so. David, what were your thoughts on when you saw the lineup?
Oh, well, I've never heard of a Zendu, but apparently he's a 16-year-old youngster. Somebody tweeted me last night what's happened to Yeboah. He's nowhere in featuring in there at all. But, I mean, look, the players that have gone out, Mehmeti, it's good business, 3.5 million for him. But we're not shedding a tear out of any of the others that have gone. Maybe Stokes. You never really functioned here because he was always played out of position, but it is what it is, and I agree with Paul. I think if we'd have got that third goal, he might have been tempted to bring Peak over on, but no, I mean the bench was okay. I just want to pick up on what Roger Tullis said here. You should never bet against your own team. It means you want them to lose. That's not true, Roger. Yeah, I couldn't be a more genuine fan than what I am, right? What it means is that if they do lose, right, it's mitigated. The sorrow of losing is mitigated by the fact that in this instance, I'd have had 170 quid in my betting account. Yeah. I want them to win every game. Yeah. And I was as pleased as anybody coming out. The worst case scenario for me yesterday would have been a 0-0 draw or any draw. Yeah. Because that wouldn't have been any good for us. Anyway, rant over.
Basically, you had a comfortable bed to cry on if it goes the other way.
Yeah, it just mitigates it. And I don't do it every week. I didn't do it against Ipswich because that was a banker thing. But I thought, so Bristol City that we'd have lost that. And as somebody else said on the text feed, a few years ago, we probably would have lost a game like that. And the old uns here are old enough to remember when we were on Match of the Day on one of those rare occasions in 1973 it was, and Crystal Palace came to Ashton Gate on, I think it was the second or third week in November, and they hadn't won a game all season. And they turned up, we were on Match of the Day, and they beat us 1-0. Alan Whittle, that fair-haired lad from the 70s, people remember. So it's just, as I keep saying with City, it's the hope that kills. Yeah. But
I know it's on that topic when it comes to betting. The thing is first of all, I get what you're saying, but I just couldn't do it. And if I did, and my bet didn't win because City won, that's like double punishment, and I just couldn't face that. Betting is hard enough. Never mind having to bring that side of it in. But no, I understand what you mean, and I know a few people that do bet against City. It's just something that I can't do. Even if I'm thinking I'm not sure today, it's either I'm going to bet with or I'm just going to leave them off my betting slip. But back to today's game. Back to the game. Sorry. First of all, shout out to Ingleson and his long throws. I'm glad we don't have to see them again this season. I hope he doesn't go anywhere we've got to play it twice, because it's not possible for someone to take so long over long throws and then get 1 minute of injury time. It was madness. It's like a ploy. If you go away from home and you want to slow the game down, just take a long throw. Take your time, do the towel, no problem. For me, it doesn't work. What did you think about Sheffield Wednesday's approach to the first 20 minutes, Paul, in that respect? With the long throws and how they approached it?
Well, they were time wasting right from the get-go, weren't they? Like you mentioned there. What is the point of that? It doesn't make any sense, really. They might as well give it a go. So, I mean, it's hard to imagine them as a team with like one win all season coming into every match. How do they motivate themselves to think we still got a chance here? We've still got to do something. We've got to reset. We're starting each match afresh, and then they just get beat or can't win. So they've got to have some sort of mindset to try and motivate themselves and not. It's like one of these junior football teams that get beat 10-0 every week, isn't it? How do you keep going through that? So I don't know if they've tried different things through the season to try and get that motivation, but they're just on a conveyor belt where they can't win, aren't they? And even if they win, it doesn't give them any hope of staying up. So,
David, the first 20 minutes, half an hour, we'll come to the Pring early chance in a minute, but just the last thing on Sheffield Wednesday. Do you think there's an argument in that first 30 minutes that despite a 0 XG and no end real threat, they were the better side in the first half an hour?
No, I don't think they were better. I just think we were pretty bang average. We looked sort of off it. There was a general feeling of doom around the ground. Everybody, there was almost an anticipation that Sheffield were going to get that rare thing, and everybody was a little bit flat. And I don't think Sheffield were the worst side we've seen at Ashton Gate. I think that accolade goes to Portsmouth. But no, the first 20 minutes, they're poor, and we weren't very good. And I think I said to the person sat next to me, I said, this looks like two poor sides. And the pitch, as I say, the pitch seemed unusually sluggish. But then there has been a lot of rain in the last week.
I don't remember ever seeing the pitch look so poor, to be honest with you. I've always considered Ashton Gate as one of those, at least in modern times, one of the most fresh. It always looks alive. The feeling that it would be a pleasure to play on. Yesterday didn't really look like that. It looked messy. It looks like it's had a lot of games and maybe the weather's gone against it. From what I know, it obviously has the rugby games, the football games, and maybe with the weather as it is right now. Is it any worse to other seasons? I can't say. But it didn't look good yesterday, that pitch, and it's going to need some work because it's not like they're going to get much of a break going forward. So
it's getting played on again today, I think, Dave, in either the women's football or the rugby or something like that.
It's something to be really, really wary of because it's I don't think it's going to help us playing on a poor pitch. The better the pitch, the quicker the pitch.
I thought we played long quite a lot yesterday at times. I don't know whether you thought that, Paul, particularly in the first half. You know, there was a lot of long stuff going, and there was quite a strong breeze at Ashton Gate as well. It was blowing. I think we had the advantage of the wind in the first half. It was blowing the wrong way to what it normally did, but there we go.
No, exactly. Now, Paul, the Pring opportunity early on. Randall clips the ball over the top. Pring is through, puts it just wide. Why is that not a penalty? Because if it happens anywhere else on the pitch, it is a free kick. But common consensus agrees that it's not. Why?
If I think about the same way, he lost control of the ball, didn't I would say, just before he had control, then he lost control, and then it looked like the keeper sort of bundled him over. But I think he'd already lost his control of the ball. So that's, to me, why it wasn't a penalty. I never thought it was a penalty in the ground for that reason. And although he stuck his hands up, there wasn't a lot of moaning from anybody else, was there?
But don't you think there's an element that he knows that keeper challenge is coming, so he's trying to stick it around the keeper. So the keeper almost gets to foul him for free because he's making the attacker make a decision that any other place on the pitch, that's a free kick, right? There's no debate it's a free kick if it happens anywhere else.
But you wouldn't have the keeper there, would you, on any other place on the pitch? It's only in the box, so any other place on the pitch, you wouldn't have anyone who could use their hand.
No, it's like a free hit. Yeah. You just rush out, and if you make contact after the shot, well, it happened.
Yeah, but he'd already lost control.
I agree with that. I agree with that, Dave. What part of the ground do you watch it from, Paul? I can't remember. Where are you sat?
I'm in the lower land stand behind the dugout.
And to the south stand side or the Atio side?
To the south stand side, behind the home dugout.
I was down in that corner, if you like. I'm the same size as you, lower lands down, but the edge of the Atio, between the halfway line and the edge of the penalty box. You hit the nail on the head. I thought Pring lost control of the ball. He made one touch, and when the contact had come, he wasn't going to get the ball. It was too far in front of him. But I agree with what you say, Dave, that in situations like that, if that happens on the field, because the contact is there, even though the ball is gone, that does get a free kick. But the goalkeeper did not deny Pring a goal-scoring opportunity. In my view, and I was quite close, he'd lost control of the ball. It was a final poor touch. It was just too far in front of him.
Sure. I appreciate that point. So we're half an hour into the game now, and I felt like we were slightly lethargic. We couldn't really get stuff going. And then gradually we started to put some passes together. Fans in the stadium seemed to appreciate and feel the moment of, okay, it's getting together now. There was a moment of Dicky to Urfi to Pring. There were some crosses. I'm not going to say it was coming. It wasn't quite that level, but it felt like, okay, the performance has gone up a level here, which leads us to the most fantastic save of the first half. Paul, talk us through what you saw in terms of that Twine opportunity. How did it come about, and what did you make of it?
It came down on right. I remember who crossed it in. I can't remind me who crossed it in.
Reese. Knight wins the ball. Reese crosses it in. Yeah.
So the cross came in across the 6-yard box. And they went into quite a lot of detail on this on Robin's TV Extra Time, that the keeper already was going down, like anticipating the save to make the save. So when Twine put his shot in from almost point blank range, it was a great save from the keeper and pushed it out. And then I think Urfi put it back in, and Twine was in the 6-yard box messing around with his feet trying to get another shot off. And then it came out and Randall blazed over eventually to end it. But yes, it was a it was a good chance, and it really should have gone in. But the keeper had a great game, didn't he, for them?
David, do you think Twine should be doing better there, or is it just that good a save?
Twiney. It was a decent save. I've seen the replay this morning before we went live, and he did okay, and he almost dug the ball out again. Just before that, he had a good situation on the edge of the box where he threw himself on the floor looking for a free kick that he was not going to get. But I think Struber said after the game we need Twine to be at his best, and we were all saying just last week, that when it comes to team selection, most of the side picks itself, and we were trying to say, well, it's Anis or Twine, not both. So Twine is in the box seat now to really make an impression, And he had a couple of other people who commented about our dead ball kicks and what have you yesterday. We've screwed up a fair number of them, but Twine whipped in a good free kick in that first half, and before the save, and indeed him trying to get the free kick on, Pring had done a marvellous Borges-style cross that Twine set up McCrory. That was a good effort as well just before that. So you're absolutely right, Dave. We were starting to get back into it.
Do you think, what did you see in terms of Earthy and Twine in that first half, making the adjustment to life after Anis? Do you think there was an element of people realising, I need to take more responsibility as the first half was growing? Because a lot of that came down to Anis in the past. And it felt like to me yesterday, at the beginning, it was maybe players looking and probing, but not quite taking that extra bit of bravery to be the one. And then it was almost like people were feeling their way in. And as you get in towards the second half of the first half, people were beginning to find their groove a little bit better. Because after 25 minutes or so, I was feeling like, I miss the old us. The energy's not there. But then step by step, it kind of seemed to come back. What did you make of Earthy and Twine as a performance in that first half yesterday?
Go on, Paul.
Well, I think we were trying to get the wing backs in, so maybe that was the primary focus. But Twine looked out of form and off his game to me in the first half. Earthy's just trying to get into the get into the feel of the team again, isn't he? He's only just joined us, so he's just working his way in. I thought Twine looked off it, but I'm a big Twine fan because he can do nothing for ages, and then he can be the spark to get us going, either from a free kick or something eventually. But I was surprised at halftime that he took Earthy off and not Twine, because Twine looked so out of sorts. But then what do I know? Because Twine scored a goal.
Can I just say about Earthy? I thought Earthy was poor yesterday. He was running around like a little boy lost. He was running around in that ineffectual way that he did when he first broke back into the side, and we were all looking forward to him coming back last season, and then it was a little bit flat, until the Middlesbrough game or what have you. So I thought Earthy was poor. Wasn't surprised when he was taken off. What I did notice, they were always looking across to the left-hand side, and the player that seemed to take advantage of that, some people have picked it up on the thread there, was Rob Atkinson, because Rob Atkinson was pushing on significantly in that first half, but they're always looking for Anis because he's always in that part of the pitch, and he wasn't there this time.
So two questions, and Paul, I'll start with you first. First of all, do you think that 2 10s and 1 centre forward is the best way to go? And second of all, if you do take the 2 10s, what was your thoughts on Twine being the left 10 and Earthy being the right 10 in that first half?
No, I don't. I think it should be 2 up top with 1 10 in behind, and I think that's what Struber wants to do, but he's limited by the lack of strikers to do it at the moment. And if, depending what happens now, if we get 1 or 2 in, it just, to me, seems like he'd love to play 2 up top all the time. And fan-wise, I've never heard anyone say we love 1 up top. Everyone says we want to play 2 up top, and across all the podcasts and everything. So Twine, he got shifted when he first came. He was out to Hurst, and when he played for Hull on loan, wasn't he? He was out on the left of midfield, and it never seemed to work for me. And it doesn't. He's better on the right, isn't he? I think.
Do you have much faith in those two complementing each other very well when it comes to Earthy and Twine together? Like, does it excite you as a combination?
Not at the moment. not
Why?
at the moment, but it's early days, isn't it? We haven't seen them. There's not enough of it. There's nothing to show us it's going to be amazing at the moment. It could develop over time, but I think really he wants to do 2 up top, and then Twine and Earthy will be sharing the 10 role, swapping around, keeping them fresh. I think that's what he wants to do, but then he needs the personnel to do that. And if he doesn't get it, they'll both be playing, and he's got no real backup, has he, in the position to rotate either of them out.
And David, Tom Pittman makes a point that he thought Earthy was playing better than Twine in the first half. I found it difficult to judge the two because I didn't think either was particularly great, but I did think that Earthy was the slightly more probing of the two. So at halftime, what do you think the reasons were to bring off Earthy instead of Twine? Because some people thought Earthy was really poor in the first half.
Well, I said I didn't think too much of Earthy, and you know he's a good footballer. I mean, he seemed to be playing on. It didn't affect the game enough for me. There was lots of energy. He showed more energy than Twine did, I thought. And you can show energy, but without really creating anything. But I was not surprised. I was not surprised when he came off. And didn't that allow us to go the 2 up top when he came off? So, you know, you had to sacrifice somebody. We've not talked about Randall or Knight yesterday, which are arguably our two best players. But you know, we a better side than Sheffield Wednesday would have capitalised on, as Michael Thresher has said here. You know, the players were, and as you said yourself, Dave, the players looked a little bit lost at times in terms of where's our outlet, which is Mehmeti. And as I say, look, Mehmeti's frustrated the hell out of us sometimes with looking for that extra touch and what have you. So, but we won at the end of the day, and that's all that matters.
Well, I looked at that side yesterday when it was starting. I thought to myself, this is a strong side of the overall. You know, we'll come to the reasons behind bits and pieces later. But the thing that really gets to me is most fans would prefer to see a 2 up top. Not all, but most would. The traditional football fan loves the romance of 2 up front as well. We all get the impression, and we look at Struber's managerial career, and he tends to go with 2 up top, or at least 3 with a 2 as the fulcrum of it. And yet we're playing with 2 10s. Paul, make it make sense, because Bell could do a job there. He was even on Radio Bristol yesterday saying, "I prefer to be as a striker. I've played there all my like youth career." Why are we playing with 2 10s if everybody seems to prefer the 2, including the manager? What's the reasoning behind that?
I think that Struber thinks he's got Reese and he's got Armstrong, neither of whom are at the top of their form at the moment. I think before yesterday, does he 100% trust Bell? Maybe not. He's sort of an option to bring on, but maybe not totally convinced about him. So then he's thinking, if I play 2 up front, got to put Armstrong and Reese on from the start. Excuse me. And then I've got Bell to bring on. And he's not quite convinced about it before yesterday. Now, maybe his thoughts will change. And if we get another striker in, he's got more options there. And it's just my personal opinion. I think if he had the personnel, he would do it.
No, I get that. I get that. And coming on at halftime, you know, we get to halftime, he makes a change. David, do you think that's one of the reasons why Struber is so popular within the fan base? Is because he recognizes when changes need to be made. He doesn't always just sit and do nothing. There are arguments sometimes that he could do more subs, but yesterday was a case of, I'm not happy with this at halftime. Right, we're going 2 up front. That's it. You know,
I think, look, he's made some bad substitute decisions as well in some of the games in recent months, because look, our form is patchy. There's no doubt about that. I think why he's endeared himself to the fans in a similar way to what Nigel did. He comes across as a decent bloke. He's getting himself involved in the community of Bristol. You know, you've seen him, you know, in the local pubs drinking cider. I think he was doing something with some community thing. So I think Gerhard Struber is genuinely a nice bloke. You got to bear in mind as well that he had a period out of football when he worked in an insurance company and what have you. I think he's a rounded guy, and people can relate to him. I think tactically sometimes he can be a little bit naive. Chaos football is good when the other teams are confused by the chaos, but we've seen what he's like against teams that do a low block. He struggles to overcome it. He does make the changes early, so for that's to be admired. But I mean, I think the earliest person ever hacked off was when Pearson pulled somebody off after 23 minutes when something wasn't working. Yeah,
exactly.
So I think he's endeared himself to the fans in the same way that Nigel did, as being a decent bloke and not the dullard that Liam Manning was. And I see he got off to a win in his first game yesterday.
Now, Paul, onto the second half. Talk us through the most ridiculous second save from the keeper. What's happening there? Talk us through it. Like, how do we get there, and how does he still manage to save that with his legs and almost flick it up? What happened there?
I'm not sure about it a bit. It was Armstrong, wasn't it? Armstrong powered his way through, as he does, and he had thoughts. I was thinking thoughts about Birmingham at home again and stuff like that, because he was coming in from a similar angle, and then the keeper sort of went down the wrong way. I can't really remember why, but he got a good foot on it and put it well wide, didn't he? Because he could have just got a glance and it could have still gone in. So
exactly, there was a deflection and the keeper was going one way and realised it's going the other way, and you're thinking, well, that's behind him, and it wasn't like he got a little bit of a toe on it. He properly put it out. It was a very odd but high quality save that he could have easily messed up, and it was almost really composed in that moment.
The timing of it to get that much power on it from where he was,
exactly. Now, David, after that, Twine has a free-ish header where he could have perhaps done better. Talk us through that and the role of Atkinson with that yesterday. You know, what did you make of that chance?
I mean, he proved me wrong moments after, didn't he? But Twine's not a natural. Twine is not a natural header of the ball, and this was part of, as we were starting to build up ahead of steam and bear down on the goal. I thought Atkinson had a fabulous game yesterday, and I think if Viner was fit, for me, it's Rob Dickey's the one of that defensive lot that drops out. Although they're playing a three, we were chatting offline earlier in the week saying, couldn't we go to a back four? Yeah, but Atkinson was good yesterday and a creator. It's so great that he signed a contract, because the fact of the matter is that if Liam Manning had still been here, Atkinson would not have signed. They didn't get on for whatever reason, so we're told. And Harry Darling, he was going to be lined up to come in, but Atkinson, I'm glad we've got him tied up on a contract this 6 months ago, because he's a key member of the team. Of that, there is no doubt.
We're going to have this back three for a while. How do you feel about that back three as it is right now?
How I feel about it? Well, how I feel about it is that Tanner has his moments when he's good, and he has his moments when he's bad. He always looks to go back. So the back three yesterday, what was it? It was Tanner, Dickey, and Atkinson. If you go to a four, you play Tanner in his best position as a right back. But sorry, if when Viner's fit, and we're told he's out for 5 weeks, when Viner's fit, Dickey, although he's slow, the manager's probably going to keep him in. So Tanner's the one who drops out for a fit against Zach Viner, assuming we see Viner play again, because the side might buy him during the window, even though he's injured. It's not a bad injury, apparently.
Has Jamie Knight-Labelle absolutely been recalled? I saw murmurings of it yesterday. I'm not sure if it's official as of this morning, but assuming he does come back, Paul, what role do you see him playing? Simply as a backup, or would you expect him to get a decent amount of game time?
No, he would just be a backup, wouldn't he? He'd be on the bench, like a Meerholz thing coming back from Aldershot, just sitting on the bench in case there was an injury. I think,
but you know that's going to come. With the Championship, there's enough rolling games that people will miss time. How would you feel when Knight-Labelle has to play? Would he have your confidence? I mean, this is one of our academy players. This is what we want, right? We want game time. Surely you must be pleased by that, or is that not the case?
Well, when we're pushing for, it's the conundrum. We're pushing for promotion, so we need our best players out there. So it's not like Pearson was blooding the youngsters because it's a different situation. We were just struggling to stay in the division, and we sort of had that. I mean, it's still a hard thing to do and keep us up at the same time. But he's done well, hasn't he, knocking about at the level he is, and we won't know if he's any good at the Championship until he plays. So unless you play him, you never find out. So I'm always happy to see youngsters be given an opportunity in the side. And if injuries dictate it has to be, then I'd rather he come in than somebody else.
Exactly. No, I agree. Now, David, first goal, a delicious Scott Twine header, created from essentially having our wing back so high, we all basically had 4 up front. Talk me through the goal as you saw it.
Well, the goal. I didn't think Randall had a great game yesterday, but he put the ball through to McCrory, and he stopped and checked. Defender carried on, running towards the south stand. Stopped and checked. Delightful left wing cross, and it was a goal that Reese would have been proud to get on the end of with a header. You know, he fluffed his earlier header, did Twine. It was a good finish. You know, I mean, he directed it across the goal. No, cracking goal, and City fully deserving to take that lead at the time.
Paul, is that the Twine that you speak of? Doesn't seem to do too much in games, and then all of a sudden pops up with a goal. Is that what you were referencing earlier on?
Yes, because a lot of time there's been comments on this podcast and other ones about he costs like X number of £1 million and he doesn't do enough to justify being the star player. But I always think if you look back, there's always occasions where he's the catalyst for sparking something, either with one of his free kicks or something else that just gets us a result every now and again. And I know it's not the majority view, but I think he justifies his fee and he doesn't dictate the fee because he has done that and he's got some points in games like that. So yeah, he popped up. He wasn't having a great game for me, but then he managed to get us going like that.
So let me ask you this question. Of the attacking positions, is he the first name on the team sheet when everybody's fit and raring to go?
Yes.
Why?
For me, yeah. If it was me, yes. And yeah, obviously if Anis was still here, then we might be having a different conversation. But yes, I think he is.
Because David, I felt like yesterday was a very Scott Twiney type of performance. It wasn't necessary all over the game, and other players are playing exceptionally well, like Atkinson, for example, the McCrory cross. And when other players are essentially doing, stepping up their game, Scott Twine scores. That's how I feel it often comes across.
Yeah, I mean, he did it. I can remember the games at the turn of last year. We won 2 games back to back just after a poor Boxing Day game. And I think he scored a free kick in one that beat Luton. Was it 1-0? And might have scored from open play against Pompey. So he does come up with those goals. As the squad stands at the moment, he's in that first 11. And as Paul said, but if Anis is here, we're all saying it's either or. Now, we're going to come on to transfer, the window activity, lack of later. But, the fact of the matter is, if anybody is going to come in the window, what's left of it, they have to be better than what we've got. And if you look at that starting lineup that we had yesterday, who are the weak links in that team at the starting lineup? Probably you'd have Twine over Earthy. So I'm looking at that team now. Have we got the money to buy better players than Tanner Dickey Atkinson, Macquarie Randall Knightpring, Earthy, I'm saying, is a weak link, Twine and Reese. We've got to have at least, I think we need 2 to 3 players in this window, but they've got to come in and be better than what we have. And we'll talk more in detail about that, Dave. I'm sure you will later. But,
but we won't get to the transfers enough yet. Just a yes or no answer from both of you. In our attacking midfield positions right now, as it stands, we have Twine, Earthy, and Bell. We are talking about how Struber would prefer to play 2 up top. So that essentially would mean that you would have 3 for probably 1 attacking midfield position. But for both of you, Paul, starting, would you be happy with just those 3 in attacking midfield positions as it stands going forward? Yes or no? Paul, you first.
Yes, but I'd say Bell's more up front than attacking midfield.
That's a naughty answer. David?
No, because I think if we want to make a playoff challenge a reality rather than chasing, I think we can do better.
I think that was vengeance from both of you, because David, last week you asked for one-word answers and the whole podcast gave you a multiple, and that was your chance to get revenge. Mental note, nice try. I'll be better next time. I've got to come up with a way. Right, okay, so at this moment we get to 65th minute, 1-0. First, our second substitution, should I say, Reese for Bell. At this moment, Paul, what did you make of Reese's performance yesterday?
He wasn't on it, was he? It was one of his. He's the 1 in 3, like Preston told us, and it wasn't one of the 1 in 3. He looked. I can't work out how can he look so on it on certain games and so energetic, and he's doing everything you want him to do, and then other games he just looks a little bit sort of lethargic. I wouldn't say he's not interested, but he just doesn't seem to have that energy to make things happen. He's frustrating because you know he can do it and he doesn't do it all the time.
David, I had a text about Reese after the game yesterday, and it read like this, okay? There's nothing fun about him. No skill, no interplay, no dribbles, no headers, and not much hold-up play. How much do you agree with that about Reese?
Okay, he scored a few goals, but pretty much all of it. I don't agree. He's not. He on his day. I think you're being generous, Paul, saying he's a 1 in 3. I think he's a 1 in 4. Yeah, and he is what he is. And we're told other clubs were in for him. He's the highest paid player at the club. Well, probably on the same as Zach Viner. He's always going to be good for between 8 and 12 goals a season, but the mid-range of that rather than 12 to 15.
Both of you are talking about the centre forward that is, League and Cup included, already in double figures for the season. The description of Reese versus what Reese is delivering on the pitch, it's not matching there. How do you feel comfortable in the way that we're describing him as a 1 in 4? He's already in double figures by January.
Yeah, don't forget he got a hat trick. He got a hat trick against Watford, who clearly were having their Christmas party in whatever hotel they were in the night before, because they were poor that day. So take away that hat trick against Watford. Yeah, he's down to 7 goals. Yeah, I think you're being generous, Dave. And then look, he's an okay player. Somebody's just said on here, Skull Legacy, Reese needs service. How many times do we whip the ball in? But I don't think he has any mobility. I mean, Chris Martin wasn't the quickest, and they're of similar ilk, but Martin clearly played more consistently at a higher level than Reese has ever done.
Exactly. Okay, I get that point. Now,
I think he's on track for the number of goals we probably thought we were going to get from him at the start of the season. But some games when you really need him, because we need some spark and we need to get a goal, he just hasn't been there, and that's a bit that frustrates. That he could do it maybe, and this might be true the whole team. We're sort of like sometimes like flat track bullies. We can beat up on Portsmouth or a weak Watford or Sheffield Wednesday, but when we need to do it against Millwall and Preston, it's not there. It's not there, the spark to just get us going. So that's what frustrates me.
It's funny how some players are seen as the lightning rod for in infuriation. My concern is that now Anis isn't there, it kind of moves on to the next guy, and the next one up will be Reese that gets that annoyance. I think that as a centre forward, and I think that Skull Legacy hits the point. He's a finisher, not a midfielder, and he does a lot of dirty work. He understands the not the dark arts of centre forward play, when to go, when to move, when to run the channels, when to give space for other people, and we can't always appreciate that. And quite often, being the one up top, he's working against 2 centre backs. It's not easy. Do I think he's better in a 2? Absolutely. But I think the issues come with what's around Reese. I don't think that Reese is necessarily the problem. I agree, he's not an exciting centre forward, but I don't think necessarily that the issues that we have as attacking always come down to him. And yes, it does come down to options and having someone else to replace him sometimes. Which brings us on to what happened yesterday with Sam Bell. Instantly comes on, makes an impact. Paul, what did you think as an overall thing of Sam Bell's performance yesterday? What was your impression?
He was great, wasn't he? He was really good. He was full of energy. He was full of speed. He was running at them to get behind them. He was everything you would want him to be. I think that's probably his best game in Bristol City shirt that I can remember.
David, imagine we signed this guy from Whipham after free. No, I didn't mean literally. Are you hearing? I mean, are you hearing what Paul's saying? I mean, should I get the contract ready? Is it time to ask Sam?
Well, I have to say, when players go away, they come back. I think it was Chris Honor was saying it on Radio Bristol last night that, he went off to Wickham and he saw probably poorer facilities, lower standard of football, and he had a 6-month reality check up there. He was impressive yesterday. I mean, never mind the goal, but prior to that, he got that. It was between the first and the second goal. He got to the byline and did a tremendous little dribble, and then Twine bought that save from the keeper. I know what's going to happen this week because that's just, I'm going to say, it's typical Bristol City. They're going to offer Sam Bell a contract and he's going to sign it. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to be. And, he was out the door. He should have gone last summer on, a permanent transfer, but he's brought himself back into contention. And I said, I said about 3 weeks ago when he returned, if Sam Bell's the answer, what's the question? He's not a player that is going to get us into the playoffs, but you can't fault him for effort. And he did really, really, really well yesterday.
But David, sometimes we have to let go of the past. If we bought in this Sam Bell that had never played for Bristol City and we signed him from Wickham the beginning of January, and these were the first 3 appearances, and this is what somebody wrote to me on X yesterday, and I apologize, their name escapes me, we would be buzzing right now. What a signing going forward. How exciting is this to have this addition? Do you disagree with that?
No, I don't, because, he would be coming because he scored 6 goals for them start of the season. So it was a bit like when Annis came. Annis didn't set the world alight straight away, but if Sam Bell was a brand new player, we'd be well chuffed. And, in the market, if somebody said, well, we paid 750 grand for him, we'd have thought, well, he looks okay. He's not the finished article, but, he's all right. But as people are saying on it, Tom of Robin's Nest, he said you can't hang your playoff hopes on Sam Bell. But I think he's earning his spot in the squad for the rest of the season. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's absolutely fair. So, Paul, the question for you, what does Sam Bell need to do in this period of time to earn that contract? What do you need to see in terms of production and performances?
More of what he did yesterday, because I would agree with Tom that he's not. I don't see him like starting, but coming off the bench with his energy for half an hour in the second half, running at them like he did yesterday. That is just what he wants. He's almost like our forward option, like George Tanner at the back. He's not there to start, but he's there to fill in when others are away, and he can do a solid job. And he's got that pace, doesn't he? So if he keeps that level up, he went away and he's got his confidence back. And he always says he likes playing up front, and he's always put out. Previously, he was like put out on the left. He's never put where he should be. So he has to produce more of what he did yesterday. He came back in his first couple of times he came on really good, and then he had a little lull, but he was right back on it yesterday. And I know some people have said it's only Sheffield Wednesday, but you can only do what you can do, can't you? You only got.
No, I mean, let's look at it this way, guys. Let's look at it this way. Right. We're being linked with a Barnsley player called Reese Cleary. I'm not excited, and a figure of £4 million has been mentioned. And if you look at Reese Cleary, he's the right age. He's 21, but his goal scoring record. He's played 40 games at first class level. He scored 11 goals. Right, 6 of those were for Hartlepool in the National League last season, and he's got 5 for Barnsley this campaign. Rather than blow the alleged £4 million on what is a punt for a player like that, I would sooner go with Sam Bell, to be perfectly honest. That lad, Cleary, for me, has got vibes of Jonathan Lico, and we all know how his career ended. You know what? If he was any good, West Brom wouldn't have let him go. And he's plied his trade at lower league. Yeah, that would be a signing up there alongside Sinclair Armstrong, in my view, as being a bit of a punt. And we've not got the budget to have punts, which is a contradiction, because to get the player that isn't a punt we've got to do the budget. And again, we come on to transfers later.
Yeah,
I feel I know what the solution is.
I understand. So basically what we're going to do now, just for everyone listening, and if anybody would like to come on, we're going to do the goal, then we're going to move post-goal into a few other bits and pieces of the match, and starting with Barry Bannon. If anybody does want to come on, now's the time to start setting yourself up. Dave is in charge of back office. If you're logged in and requesting, he'll bring you in, no problems, and you can talk about whatever you want. So David, if you get someone from this point onwards, let me know, and then we'll adjust. If not, the three of us will just keep going as normal. It's up to you guys. The floor is open for you to talk with us if you so wish today. So, Paul, first of all, substitutions. Sykes comes on for Pring, the wing-back switch, and Morsey for Randall. What did you make of Morsey's reception when he came on yesterday? Did you hear too many rather harsh boos yesterday because of things that we've seen that I think are slightly out of context? What did you make of the reception for him?
I didn't really hear it, to be honest, because the Lansdowne is obviously more genteel than the rest of the ground, and it definitely wouldn't have come from the Lansdowne. But yeah, I did see that after post-match that there was some discontent around that, but I think it's all blown up a bit, isn't it? It's come from Annis's opening interview at Ipswich. He's bound to talk himself up and name drop Morsey. That's just going to put him in a good light with Ipswich, isn't it?
My opinion is that the particular newspaper has done Morsey up like a kipper there. They have really, the way they've quoted it is not how it will happen between footballers. I would imagine that they've had conversations and they've been speaking about post this season when everybody knows Annis was going to go. And that has been taken completely out of context, like he was trying to get him out of the door now. And I feel bad for how that comes across, because you can imagine, players know. And if you're reading that kind of information and you're Morsey, you must be thinking, thanks, Annis, thanks, whoever you are, journalist. You've really done me up at my new club and given me a really tough situation. I just think it was extremely poor how they've gone about reporting it. And it shows you the words you use do matter.
Because Morsey's just come in. He wants success, doesn't he? He's at a stage of his career. He's had success before. He's probably done everything he wants to do personally, and he's here to try and win again with Bristol City. So it's probably not on his agenda for him to turn up and then Annis to disappear straight away, really.
Which leads nicely, David, on to the goal. Morsey wins the ball back. Talk us through the second goal as you saw.
Yeah, Morsey, it was Morsey. Little pass through the middle, and Armstrong's up and away. He's gone. Yeah, and I thought probably 3 times yesterday he got into that space where he looks dangerous. He was advancing. He had 3 defenders in his weight, but his touches were poor. He got his feet in a tangle. He couldn't get his shot away. And by the time he sort of did get the shot away, one of those players was on his left, but he just sort of poked it. Unfortunately, the ball broke for Sam Bell, and then somebody else put Bell hit that first time. If that's Anis Mehmeti, he'd have taken a second touch to compose himself. But Bell, instinctively in front of goal, missed a lot over the years. Yeah, but that was a good, crisp finish. But great pass by Morsey and Sinclair Armstrong doing what he's done best. I mean, if that ball by Morsey had been played through to Reese there, you wouldn't have had that 3-on-1, that acceleration. Reese would not have had the pace to get that far down the field. But credit to Sinclair Armstrong, he did. He fluffed it at the end, but it created the chance for Sam Bell.
The Sam Bell part is inarguable, and well done for keeping up. And I'm not going to lie, I had a first thought that it was rather brutal, but to my surprise, I saw a few other people say it as well. Paul, was that Armstrong's Bass Savage moment? Is that the closest that we've come since then? Essentially falling over in front of goal, or is it really nothing close to that? And actually, it's okay defending, forcing the issue from Armstrong.
I think that's harsh. It's okay defending because he had 2 or 3 defenders around him, didn't he? I mean, if you're cynical, you think, well, Bell thought, I'm going to keep up with this because he's never going to score and something might happen for me. But yeah, I mean,
we described the way Armstrong approaches it. I mean, in the end, it works out well, but you want to be getting a shot off there 10 times out of 10, don't you? If you're Armstrong, you're through. You're ahead of the guy. You've got him for pace. I don't understand how he manages to get back. To me, to fall over in that moment, and there are other situations where if Bell doesn't score, we're replaying that, and it's like one of the comedy moments of the season, isn't it?
Yes, because you couldn't quite work out how he got everything mixed. Well, he's moving at pace, isn't he? And then it just like, and he's got
Yeah.
players around him. But yeah, you would like him to get shot off in those situations.
David, here's the thing with Armstrong. He doesn't polarize the fan base, but he does polarize me. There are some games where I think, wow, this is the guy. Please play like this. And other games where I feel like he's played a couple of good and he just goes back into old habits of not maximum effort, Armstrong. How did you see Armstrong yesterday in terms of his overall performance?
I thought he's a much better player than he was 6 months ago. Yeah, fact. Ken Goodman said on the text, Davey fell over. Did you really think he would score? That is nowhere near his bad savage moment. I mean, I saw that again, a clip within the last couple of months, and that was horrendous. I mean, if you keep on playing, people say Sinclair Armstrong had 60 appearances for QPR. They were all cameo appearances. They were all substitute appearances, right? And, I just wonder whether Sinclair Armstrong would benefit for a 6-month loan next season, whatever division we're in, 6-month loan in a League One club where he's playing week in, week out, because people say he's a bit lethargic occasions and doesn't look interested. He probably needs to build his stamina. And if he's playing week in, week out, he might develop. And so into the sort of player, there is a player in there somewhere. And let's put it that way, for the money we play, we need it to be like that because, Fally, the other half of that awful summer 24 window, the other half of the striking purchases, and he's gone, he's finished. So I think Armstrong is okay. But if we bought in another striker, it wouldn't do Armstrong any harm to get, particularly with Bell coming back in now. If we bought in another striker that is going to be oven ready for the Championship, Armstrong could benefit by going out on loan for the last 18 or so games of the season to a League One club or even a low Championship club, not one that's up there by us at the moment.
Exactly. And once that goal goes in, the game is pretty much done. I was impressed after that with, again, to refer it with Bell's application, energy and effort. For me, this new guy that we've got is really showing like, I belong here. That self-belief, just keep that. You're giving yourself an opportunity. Wherever you end up playing football, you will make a successful career if you keep doing that, because that's the standard and that's the level. Now, before we get to the Barry Bannon moment, it's 2-0. I'm feeling good. I'm sixth place. We're going to talk about a podcast where we're in the playoffs. Thanks, Wrexham, for your 2 last-minute goals. 7th place doesn't quite have the same sound, but a win is a win. We're in the hunt. Moving on now. Barry Bannon. You two, first of all. Paul, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on giving him the standing ovation going off?
I didn't mind it. I did give him a standing ovation. I did clap him off. He was emotional. You don't see loyalty like he has given to Sheffield Wednesday that much in football these days. He's been a good servant for them. He's helped us by getting sent off in one of the matches at Ashton Gate, so he's done some stuff for us as well. But I just thought it was one of those. It was just the moment where you thought, yeah, this is right. And then afterwards, after the match, I thought that's happened to Barry Bannon, and then I thought back to Max O'Leary, how long he's been at our club, and then the circumstances where he just disappeared, and we couldn't do anything like that for him, or sort of say goodbye to all the years that he's been at the club as well. So, but I didn't mind it. I know some people have called it Tim Pot and all this sort of stuff, but sometimes it's just nice to do something nice and acknowledge someone's loyalty to a club, I think.
Yeah.
I have to admit, it wouldn't be for me because he's not retiring. There is a version of the future in which we come up against him playing for Millwall in the playoffs. And, you've given someone a standing ovation coming off and then he scores against you to knock you out. And I don't think he'll get a standing ovation in that context. But at the same time, I did find it kind of endearing because it shows an appreciation of understanding and it shows a certain amount of football intelligence. David, do you think that reflects well on the fan base, or do you think it's more towards the too soft, too nice as a football club?
No, look, Bannon has been a thorn in our side over the years. He's a player that we have coveted in the past. I was just thinking, I wonder how we would have felt if we'd have got Barry Bannon rather than Sam Morsey. Bannon was the architect behind everything they did well yesterday, little flicks and what have you. It was a gesture. I can't remember whether I didn't stand up. I mean, I would say there was a fair few people standing up, but I applauded him, and it's loyalty, which is a scarce commodity, and in the same way that maybe we've got Morsey, Bannon's going to be a player that's going to come in and give Millwall some much needed experience going into the final third of the season. So no, I don't think it was us being too nice at all. We were winning as well. If we'd have been losing, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah.
Do you think Viner gets a similar reception at the end of the season? Paul, you first.
Well, assuming he goes, our last game of the season is a home game anyway. He'll get. I mean, look, the manager took him off. A guy I was with said they'll take him off with 10 minutes to go. I think it was a bit less than that.
Yeah.
So in the final game of the season for us, which I think is against Stoke, and if we're out of playoff contention, then he'll bring Viner off in similar fashion, maybe. I think Steve Cottrell did the same with Lewis Carey to give Carey that final appearance. He let him come off and take the applause. So will we do it for Viner? I don't know.
Paul, instinctively, do you think it will be like that or not? For one of our own, by the way.
It depends, doesn't it? It depends on how we've done. Have we made the playoffs or not? All that sort of stuff, I think.
Contextually.
I think I probably would, because he's given good service to the club, hasn't he, Viner? It's the club's fault that they haven't locked him down, that they let the contracts run out, and if he wants to see what's on the other side, I can't blame him for that on a personal, professional level for his footballing short careers. But I still hoping he might stay. But.
Fair enough. So moving on to the good week or bad week. Let me just present the case, okay? The board, those in charge, they took a look at Sheffield Wednesday and they said this team has got enough to win this game. They realised that getting players out is the hard part. So, Roberts, thank you very much for your services. Cornick, thank you very much. Max is gone. You know what? We feel like being generous. We're going to give a playoff team an extra boost. Stokes, you need to up your game. You need to go out and get some minutes in your legs. Come back next season fresh to go. Anis, 3.5 million, with only 6 months left on the contract. Could have been more if they'd done it before, but based on January only, that's exceptional business. Thomas and Morrison out on loan. That's a fantastic week, isn't it? The decks have been cleared. We've won the game. We're 1 point off, and we've now got room to manoeuvre to bring people in. Why the panic, Paul?
Because I think this has been said before, but in isolation, each of those deals looks good. I don't even mind that you've gone to Hull. That doesn't, because he's never fitting in, and financially offload it to someone else. It just looks like it's opportunistic and there's no strategy behind it. Because when Struber was asked in his press conference about would you have let you or Stokes go if you know Mehmeti was going, there was a long pregnant pause which told me no, those decisions might have been a bit different. So that tells you that there's not clear thinking behind it. And now there's only like a week or so left in the window. Everyone knows we've got some money to spend. Everyone knows we're desperate for players. So prices are going to go up. So that's a bit.
Do you think there was an element of I have a cunning plan, but kind of not telling Struber about it early enough? And I think it's a very valid point. You and Stokes disappearing and then selling Anis, it tells me that plans were not in place, or this is the plan that's come in the second half of the season. Do you understand the window? Sorry. Do you understand the panic?
Look, I think, do we plan? I mean, the budget, and Tom Rawcliffe said this at, I think, Senior Reds, that they did not budget for Antoine Semenyo being sold. You can't budget for a sale or income that you don't think you're going to get. They did, fixed cost budget there. I think we got earthy in 18 months ago because we didn't think we were going to get Twine, and then Twine, maybe the price was tweaked and we got him. We ended up with both. So I think it's right to say that of the players that have gone out the door, Stokes is the one that I think we should have hung on to. Mehmeti makes totally sensible business, but last summer, Mehmeti should have been given probably a better deal than he's on. And this is pure simple maths. I mean, last season, Mehmeti, all his goals came in the first 2/3 of the season. And then for whatever reason, Manning left him out. He didn't feature. He didn't feel loved, Mehmeti, at the club. Manning goes, Atkinson signs a contract. Struber comes in. At the podcasters get together we had at Christmas, Struber, clearly, if he was saying it to us, he was saying to Anis as well, you're fit, you're intelligent, right? Last summer, if let's say Anis was on $9,000 a week, probably not as much as that, but somebody said that was a number yesterday. If you double Anis's wage last summer from 9 to 18, which is what we're told that Reese is on, double his wages to 18 grand, right? He's going to sign that contract last summer because he didn't know how good he was going to be in the first half of this season. He'd been out the side. He wasn't getting minutes. The cost over 3 years of giving Anis that $9,000 a week extra is 1.2 million, 1.3 million extra cost to hang on to a player you've got. And then if Ipswich come in and want to get Manning in January, as they have done, and he had signed that contract in the summer, we wouldn't get 3.5 million. We'd probably get 6 with a big sell on as well. So in terms of planning, I think we make it up as we go along to some extent. And as I put on the on OTIB last night in the thread for this podcast, the ball is now in the board's court to do something. Yeah. I don't think, I mentioned this lad Reese from Barnsley earlier. Don't think he's the answer. The other guy who scored a lot of goals for them, JKD, I think he's abbreviated to double-barreled name. He's 28. He doesn't fit our profile. If they're hesitant, this football club, about our chances of being in the playoffs, then the only way they can go forward and get value is to go into the loan market. And if they bought in 2 Tammy Abraham equivalents from Premier League clubs and gave 2 players 30 grand a week each, that's ignoring signing on fees. That's paying half their wage. You can cut it different ways, 20 grand a week and a fee. But very simplistically, 2 Premier League loan players at 30 grand a week, that's 60 grand a week for 20 weeks between now and the end of the season. That's only going to cost us £1.2 million. Whereas if we go out and we're frittering a couple of million here and a couple of million there, we're back in the same ballpark of players that might do okay. They're not going to make a difference. Whereas we've got to make a statement now to get quality players in and pay the right money for them. And if they're not on 4-year contracts or 3, they got to be loans. There we go. That's my view.
No, okay. I get that point, and I'm going to use some of that for Paul. I'm not going to ask you what you think we need, because I think, generally speaking, there is a fundamental agreement on that. My question to you is, what are your expectations as to what's going to happen over the next week, and what would satisfy your need of going for it?
At least 2 signings, at least one of them a striker, ready to play, not they're going to be ready in a season and a half. I think the board have to send that message, because anything else looks like lack of ambition to the players, to Struber, to the fans. They're not going to get the season ticket sales if they don't sign some players now. But they've boxed themselves into a corner because there's not much time to do it. And who's left on the list? How long is their list of players that they would bring in now? I'd love to see it.
Okay, and bearing that in mind, you first, Paul. Window closes 3rd of February. Is Struber still the manager?
Yes, because he won't walk, because you don't get the financial compensation, I imagine, if you leave, do you? Whether if he wanted to go, he'd make even more pointed comments than the sort of ones he'd made so far, and that might force the board's hand, because historically they don't like criticism from the manager. But I think, the Tommy Horvath thing is an interesting one, isn't it? Whether that's olive branch to Struber, could we even bring that forward to January by paying a bit more money? Now we've got some more money, but that seems to suggest that's his sign in, something for the longer term.
And David, what about you? Because you've asked me this question numerous times, and every time I've pushed back, yes, of course, he's here for the long term. But his comments in these recent press conferences, they are worrying me severely. They tell me that if business is not done, he might walk. And if he keeps making these comments, he might be pushed out. Do you have confidence that the board will do the business and that he will be here after the window closes?
I think 100% he'll be here after the window closes. We got another game before the window closes, which is Friday night against Derby, who are the strongest away team in the division. You know, they've moved right up there. So, you know, if he gets the win against Derby, on the Friday night, we will go into the final Saturday that the window is open in the top 6. It might change by 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Right. Yeah. But we are there. We are poised. This time last year, we were always waiting to get that next win to get us there. Yeah, we were always failing a few times, but obviously doing it at the end. He will still be here. If he gets us, if he finishes 8th or 7th or 8th with no support in the transfer market this window, another club will come in for him in the summer, I'm sure. That's when he would go if he doesn't feel backed. So all eyes now are on the hierarchy in terms of what are they going to do, because anything else, they've cleared the decks. I keep talking about loan players. Just think of the wages alone that have gone off the payroll effective, you know, what is the date tomorrow? Monday, the 26th. The amount of money that's gone off the payroll is sufficient to fund loans. I don't think we should be splashing around in the market in that 1.5 to 2.5 million, because we will not get value. We will get more of the same. And that is, and look, this Tommy Horvath, I don't know too much about him, but you look at his record, he's not a goal scorer. You know,
I don't believe that that's necessarily the position they're filling. That's more, I think you called it well earlier on, that is more placating and saying, look, we are doing business that you want to do. And I think it will be interesting to see no, interesting is not even the right word. It will be crucial, and it will reveal a lot about them, to the point that I'll come to Steve Lansdown in a minute, but the ones below him, this window is very much a step up or step aside. If you can't get it done and you don't back Struber in this window, or you don't get the deals over the line, step aside to someone who can, because this is an opportunity. We have a fantastic manager, the right one for this club. We have an incredibly strong core. They need those additions. You've cleared the decks. You've made people panic slightly, even the manager, because this wasn't the plan. But you have a plan now. Yeah. Now it's time to die on that.
Can I just say one thing as well, Dave? Although he's been making barbed comments akin to some of Nigel in his latter weeks, right? He didn't make a statement yesterday about I need players, because he filled the bench.
Yeah,
he filled the bench. You know, if he'd have done too short on the bench or put an extra goalkeeper on or something, he'd be making a statement. But he filled the bench. So, you know, and
now last question from me, and I'll hand it back to you, David. Paul, I'll go with you first. We heard a few anti-Lansdown chants yesterday, a few anti-Tinian chants yesterday. Can you understand it, or do you think it's well out of line? Where do you stand on hearing stuff like that yesterday?
I can understand it, because a long-suffering fan base, with historically, that we don't seem to spend the money that some other clubs in our position spend. It's often said we're the highest sort of grossing non-parachute payment club, but that money seems to disappear somewhere. So I think it comes from frustration. I'm very ambivalent about it, because Steve Lansdown has put a lot of money in it, but seems to have, I would say, lost interest that he had in his early days of owning the club, of not being as excited about it all. This constant soap opera of selling the club and of Bristol Sport and everything like that. And you can't pin down where the blame should lie with this collective responsibility model they've got. So it's so hard. You can blame almost who you want to blame or who you dislike out of it, Tinian or Lansdown or somebody else, because it's like trying to nail jelly, isn't it, about who's doing what and who's set the plan and that sort of thing.
Exactly. And based on that, like you said, the highest revenue outside the parachute payment clubs, all the clubs around us spending money, proving you can find value in January. From what Paul is saying, you can agree or disagree with the anti-chanting, but you can understand it, right, David? Or is it just that's not the time and the place, middle of January when you're seventh in the league?
Yeah, I mean, we are where we are. We're seventh in the league, but it's time to kick on, And somebody said to me at halftime yesterday, "Oh, well, be careful what you wish for. Look at Sheffield Wednesday and Reading and all these clubs." But I say, no, look at Brighton, Bournemouth, and Brentford. We're bigger than all of those clubs. They're well-run football clubs. And I said even Cardiff. Cardiff have had two spells in the top flight this millennia. Yeah, even though they've got a crap organizational setup. Steve Lansdown's got investor fatigue. There's no doubt about that. And he's going to carry on dipping his hand into his pocket. It's a nice thing to have. He wants the legacy of Bristol Sport, but the price that he wants is too much. And as I tweeted with somebody the other day, if you draw the analogy, I'd go to the estate agent and say, I want £1.5 million for my house. I've got solar panels, I've got everything. And they say, yes, David, but the house down the road that was sold 6 months ago has got exactly what you've got, and it's sold for 1.2 million.
Just to bring it back to the chance, Sutts makes a point that kind of negativity and abuse, it's not helpful towards the players. Considering where we are in the league and our aspirations for the end, is it the right time and the right place yesterday, middle of January, when essentially the players really need that 12th man? I get the reason for it, because people feel like these guys are out the door and you're not bringing them in. But doesn't Sutts make a very good point there that energy yesterday is not what you want where we are? How do you feel about what Sutts is saying there?
Paul?
I think that's a product of the way it's been done, with the players going out first before we've got ones in. And it's the only avenue really for those fans who want to do that sort of thing to vent their opinion directly so that people can hear it. And it wasn't constant throughout the game from what I heard. It was just the odd moment when things weren't going that well for us on the pitch. And when we scored the goals, they changed tack and there was more energy and support for the players. I think in a way the players are thinking we need more players in there as well. So they probably agree with it on some level.
No, I think they agree with, like you said, they agree with it, they support it. And when you're in that kind of environment, you want the best players around you. And when someone like Anis steps out the door, your question would naturally be who's coming in. And I think that they would understand it. What you see around it, really, it's what happens in the next week, because the fans are clear. They haven't turned on the players. You can agree or disagree with the chants. They have not turned on Struber, not 1%. People that they are either very, very pro Struber or they're benefit of the doubt mode. A fan base has a wide range, but the support is clear. What they are asking for is that Struber be backed, and it needs to be done. I've done my part. David, let me hand it over to you for the housekeeping about going forward.
All right, the housekeeping. Thanks, Dave. Great hosting as always. We'll be doing our derby review on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. So hopefully you can join us for that. If there is much transfer activity, we may do a special in the middle of the week, but I think the guys of OSIB did very good spaces when the bedwetting was at its height just the other day. So I think we'll probably you'll next hear from us on Saturday morning when I think the transfer of business, if there's going to be any, will be done. And then we can look forward. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting if we beat Derby, we've then got Hull City away. And I guess that Hirakawa can't play in that, but it's still everything to play for. So Paul, thanks for joining us today. Dave, thanks for hosting. Everybody who's watched us live, hope we've given you a bit of Sunday morning entertainment. And if you're listening during the week, hope you enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed.